cases where you have aggregated particle or holes, the threshold detection will often fail, in which case we recommend the use of the watershed segmentation. If we focus on valleys, also called dells for the moment, watershed segmentation detects local minimum points called pits. In this 3D view, you can see the pits points at the bottom of the valley. The ridge line in black separates the valley from its neighbors. The lowest point of this ridge line is called a saddle point. The local height is defined by the height difference between the pit and the saddle point. The main goal when one is using watershed segmentation is to fine-tune the settings. This is to avoid over-segmentation, which will lead to results containing too many valleys. There are two settings available, local height and areas. Starting with heights, if the local height of the valley is below the user-defined criteria, it will be merged with its neighbors. Same principle applies when using area. Smaller valleys will be merged with their neighbors. These two settings are called training criteria. Finally, one can combine the two settings for optimal results. From my own experience, I often find that starting by playing with the height settings give fairly good results rather quickly. Please note that the watershed segmentation is used in other instances of the software. For instance, when one wants to extract the planar contour, or when you want to extract subsurfaces or region of interest. Let's see how the watershed segmentation can be used in the particle study. We have gathered a couple of examples here. So let's start with this one. If you display it in 3D, you will see lots of valleys, more or less aggregated, and that's what we want to analyze. So in the particle study, remember by default, it's the threshold detection that is used. So the first step is to go from threshold to watershed segmentation, and to do so, you have the drop-down menu here, and you select watershed detection. In this window, there's a couple of steps you need to go through. The first one is to specify the kind of features you want to detect. Hills, such as aggregated particles, for instance, or dell, which is the case here, meaning aggregated valleys. We often recommend the use of a pre-processing step here, a filter size, for instance, 3x3. The idea is that by using such filter, you will reduce the local peaks surrounding these edges, and if you don't do that, you might end up with over-segmentation. And finally, the pruning criteria. If we choose none, you see here the results. In solid line, these are the ridges previously described, and the crosses are the pits. Now, if you want to avoid smaller pits in those valleys, for instance, you need to start merging them using the pruning criteria. And you can start with the height. For instance, 1%. 1% of the SZ parameter. The SZ parameter is nothing more than the distance between the highest point on the surface and the lowest point on the surface. When you are happy with those criteria, you click on OK, and here is the result.